Powered by Riverside FM.
Ancient creatures, dark spirits, stories that were never meant to be comforting. Vietnamese folklore is filled with things that don't just exist in legend, they exist in warnings. This episode, we're stepping into the dark side of it. Tonight on Newsworthy, 2 words and 2 question marks.
Xin chào con dong ng guay Viet qua chung toi tay các ban guay kia đang lang nghe và tin chung toi đi chung toi đã đây. Chào mừng các bạn, hãy ngồi xuống và tuang tuk chuang trin ne.
I'm Steve, and I've not seen a conspiracy that I don't like.
I'm Jerry, the analytical skeptic of the group that says, show me the proof.
I'm Brett. I'm the mediator between the two elders and usually cast the deciding vote.
We weren't just looking for a house. We wanted our forever home.
That's when we called Ed Lockett, USA Mortgage. He helped us see the bigger picture.
Ed showed us how the right loan could fit our family's future, not just today's needs.
And he made sure every detail was clear, so we felt confident planting roots.
Hi, I'm Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Let's find the loan that makes your forever home possible. Call me today at 502-680-0953.
Wow, I messed that one way up.
It'll all be good.
Welcome to Newsworthy. 2 words,
Absolutely.
2 question marks. I'm Steve, that's Jerry. Brett is obviously not here again today.
What's he doing? Do you by any chance know?
It's funny you should ask. Brett took vacation. He is on holiday. He is in the Tibetan mountains picking ticks off of Sherpa dogs.
Really?
Yeah, some weird fascination he has. I don't know.
Apparently so.
He's a weird dude. Weird dude. Guys, you may have noticed something a little different coming into this show. Us, like many, many other podcasts, in fact, there's been several Reddit articles about it. Last few months got big spikes in Vietnamese numbers. I thought originally, hey, it's some bot farm that picked us up, hit the algorithm, whatever. Apparently, it's not. Those are real Vietnamese people out there listening. It is one of the highest growth rate podcast dynamic, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Not for sure.
Group of people.
Okay.
What's the word? Dang.
It'll come to us the moment we hit the stop button.
Yeah.
And record.
Anywho, it's one of the biggest growing podcast groups of folks in the entire world. So we just wanted to welcome them in. We appreciate them
Absolutely.
listening. In fact, tonight's whole show is about Vietnamese spooky
Yes, it
stuff, cryptids, and it was kind of fun, actually.
It was.
You know, we often cover cryptids and conspiracy theories and haunted stuffs here in the United States.
And
It is-
occasionally in some European countries
Mexico.
somewhere.
But very rarely. So
Yep.
to go to the Far East and start digging through some of their lore and some of their that's pretty amazing
Yeah.
stuff.
You mentioned that we had several people listening. You didn't tell them how many. There was one segment, and I don't recall if it was a week, 2 weeks, a month. When we go to look at our analytics, it'll show it by, I think, 1 week, 2 weeks, month, 6 months.
7 days in a month. 7 days and weeks.
In 30 days, okay.
Yeah.
There was one particular period that we looked at it, and our Vietnamese listeners had actually surpassed American listeners. We had more people for that time period from Vietnam listening than from America. It blew us both away.
Yeah, that's why I started doing the research. Because
Absolutely.
immediately you start thinking, well, that's a bot farm. That's this. That's whatever. And that's just not.
What was
just wasn't the
happening?
case.
Right.
You know. So, anywho,
Very true. So tonight, Vietnam.
Vietnam stuff. Oh, before we get into the show real fast, within 30 days, we're doing our very first Bigfoot Festival
Of 2026.
of 2026.
And
we
that
plan
will
on doing.
be where?
We're going to Stanton, Kentucky for their second annual Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival.
Very nice. And the first one was absolutely huge. It
Yeah.
blew away all expectations.
It
was so
literally
busy.
shut down the interstate going through Stanton.
Yes, it did. The backups trying for people to get off, and the backups were caused because the parking lots, the main parking lot that they had designated, the backup parking lot was full. They didn't know where to send people for a while until they got that figured out. So people were backed up to the interstate and way back on the interstate trying to get off to come to the festival.
Yeah,
We're hoping this year's anywhere near that.
Other than that small thing, which nobody could have planned for,
Oh, absolutely.
it was probably one of the that we do several festivals. It was one of the best ran,
It really was.
best organized, best thought out.
Which is saying a
venues.
lot for it to be
Period.
the inaugural event
Yeah,
last year.
and we're gonna go, but we got a special thing for you guys today. If you listen to the show and you want to come see us live at the Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival, if you come up to us, and since Brett's not here tonight because he's a loser, all you have to say to us is, that's why Brett's not on the banner. If you tell us that, either me or Jerry, either one of us, we're going to give you a free special gift.
Absolutely. Did we tell them when it is?
May 30th.
May 30th in Stanton City Park in Stanton, Kentucky. Starts at 10 a.m. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Come see us. Come, even if you don't want a free gift, come say, hey, I listened to the show. Glad to have you. If you have an awesome experience you want to share, great time. We're going to have our equipment there. We'll be able to do an interview right on the spot. So
Absolutely.
we don't sell anything at those things. We just go to talk to people.
Some people, we hear occasionally, some people say they would like to share. They don't want to be recorded. That first of all, there's no video. It's only audio. Secondly, if you are insistent you don't want, but you'd still like to share your story, tell us.
Yeah.
We can retell the story. You don't have to be recorded at all. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
I'll
nothing
use
else
some
to talk
bonus
about.
stories.
Absolutely, nothing else to talk about and say hi.
Anywho, all right. Jerry,
Yes,
did you know that Vietnam has something equivalent to Bigfoot?
before I began doing the research, I had no idea. But I would have, if I'd been asked, I would have said yes, because almost every country in the face of the earth does. But
Every single civilization has two things in there. Any civilization that has writing has two things in their writings: Bigfoot stories
okay,
and giant stories.
there you go.
And if you want to take it a step further, they have three. 99.9% of those all have a flood story too.
Yep.
It's insane.
I wonder what percent have an alien story.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
High percentage, I would think.
I would think
People from the sky coming to help, to hurt,
do
to
whatever.
do something.
to harvest gold.
Yes.
Anunnaki, whatever you want to call it. But let's talk for just a second about Vietnam's equivalent of Bigfoot.
Let's do it.
Now, we are going to try some of these names. We are
Please forgive
two
us.
old boys from
There
Kentucky.
you go.
Please forgive us if we butcher the names.
Which we know we will, because we butcher a pretty high percentage of American words, much less Vietnamese that we've never even heard pronounced.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is Kating Voar.
Nice.
The Kating Voar is also known as the snake-eating cow, which,
Okay.
little weird, is a controversial bovid, long rumored to inhabit the forest of Vietnam and Cambodia. It is sometimes described as a cryptid, a mythical animal, undiscovered creature, and it has been compared to Bigfoot in the Southeast Asia due to its elusive nature and its lack of actual confirmed sightings. I have to think that the Kating Voar is having the same issues that Bigfoot is here.
Absolutely.
Either it's going to be completely hoaxed over with AI, or its world's going to get very small with the number of cameras that go into the woods. The Kating Voar was first reported in 1994 by German zoologists Wolfgang Peter and Antonis Fieler, based on a spiral, lyre-shaped horns they found in Ho Chi Minh City Market. These horns were about 45 to 50 centimeters long and were unusual for bovids and led Peter to propose a brand new species. Local lore describes it as a cow-like animal, about goat-sized, 80 centimeters at the shoulder, with spotted fur and a diet that allegedly includes snakes. The name Kating Voar in Khmer literally means Liana Horned Gower, while the Vietnamese Lia Duang was once misapplied but actually refers to a mainland Siro. Whew, that's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Now, much like Bigfoot here, there's much scientific debate. Supporters like American mammalogists, my goodness,
Another mouthful.
Mammalogic, I can't even say it. I'm moving on. Like American Robert Tim has suggested it could be real. Distinct wild bowfin, and such as the coupre. Apparently, wild bovids are not unheard of in the world.
I'll be darned.
Skeptics, mostly scientists, consider it a hoax. DNA tests on alleged specimens show contamination, and morphological analysis reveal the horns were artificially shaped cattle horns. Possible explanation? The horns may have been carved and reattached to mimic a unique bovid, possibly as an anti-snake talisman in local culture. Anything to keep the note ropes away.
Yeah. There you go.
So, despite the lack of scientific proof, the Kating Voar remains a part of folklore and cryptozoological interest in both Vietnam and Cambodia. It has been featured in documentaries and online videos as a mysterious, snake-eating bull of the jungle. Its story parallels other cryptids, where cultural belief and incidental reports persist even without verifiable evidence. In short, the Kating Voar is not a confirmed species. It's likely a myth or a cleverly, man, I am having speaking trouble. Angie Van Sice would be so upset with me for not being able to talk tonight.
English is hard sometimes.
It is hard sometimes. Anyway, it's likely a myth or a cleverly crafted horn imitation, but it holds cultural significance as a symbol of the wild, elusive bovids of Southeast Asia. Woo!
Sounds scary.
It does. And here's the thing. So in my current D&D, I'm going to talk nerd for a minute. For those nerds that listen to the show, welcome to my world. My current D&D character,
Oh, bless you.
thank you, is a furbog, which is a bovid. I am basically a cow knight paladin. So I can relate with the Kating Voar, except I carry a big mace.
One of the most interesting things about everything that you mentioned to me was the fact that it was first talked about in 1994.
Yeah,
That's extremely recent. Most of these that we've talked about, and we've talked about the fact that you'll find Bigfoot stories in basically every country, every
Yeah.
culture in the world. And many of them go back centuries. This one, no mention of it until 1994. So that to me struck this, wow, that's unusual.
Very unusual. Very unusual. What was you going to talk about for one? And then we'll come back to the next one I have. Because the next one I have is even creepier than that one, if you can believe it.
Yeah. First of all, to expound upon that, what I just said, the fact that you can go to almost any country in the world and you're going to find a Bigfoot story. The names change. It may be Bigfoot. It may be Sasquatch. It may be Yeti. It may be the skunk ape. And in
The Ohio
Vietnam,
grassman.
right? And in Vietnam, it's
Kating Voar.
the names change, but the stories are eerily similar. And it's not just cryptids. You'll find the same thing happening with ghosts, spirits, boogeymen, creatures of the night. The same thing. The names change, but not the stories. They're very similar stories that have been told around the world in many cases for hundreds, if not thousands of years. First one I'm going to talk about is called the Mada, the spirit that waits beneath.
Wait.
Yes. Mada.
How do you get the Mada? And I get 8,000 different varieties of not how to pronounce anything.
You think?
You are definitely the smarter of the two of us. So I don't know why you get
No.
the Mada.
I was not the smarter
and
of
I
the
get
two. Normally, in this case, I probably was because I was smart enough to pick the one with names I could pronounce. That's all I'm saying. I took a look at the first one. I'm like, yeah, Steve, I think you would do really well with this.
You must have caught me when I had had too much wine.
Yeah.
Anywho, I didn't
Mada.
mean to cut you off. Mada. Tell us all about Mada.
The name translates as a water ghost, but that's barely scratching the surface. In Vietnamese belief, a Mada is the restless spirit of someone who drowned, often suddenly, tragically, unjustly. Here's the key part. They're not at peace. Instead of moving on, they're believed to be trapped in the water where they died, whether it's a river, a pond, a canal, even flooded rice fields. But over time, they become something else, something patient, something waiting. They don't just haunt the water, it waits. In many tellings, the only way that the Mada can be released to its final home is to replace itself, meaning it needs someone else to drown. It's a literal game of tag. They drag a living person down to drown so the victim takes their place as the new Mada, allowing the old spirit to finally move on to its final resting place.
Oh, that's creepy.
Isn't it, though? Now, the stories vary, but some of the common descriptions include a pale, bloated figure just beneath the water's surface, sometimes described as a bloated corpse with hair that looks like tangled river weeds. Sometimes it's a hand that grabs at ankles, trying to pull you under. Sometimes it's nothing visible at all. They're just a sudden downward pull. People describe victims as, in many cases, very strong swimmers who suddenly begin to panic because they can no longer swim. There's a force that's pulling them under. They describe them as being pulled under in what is normally, usually, very calm water. In many cases, they're reported to have disappeared without a trace. Now, to put this in context, Vietnam is a country that is shaped by water. Rivers, canals, floodplains, all are vital to Vietnam. The Mekong River alone is the world's largest inland fishery. It supports millions of people with its food, its water, transport. So Mada serves a dual purpose. They're supernatural, but they're also practical warnings. So don't swim alone, respect the water, and be careful where you step, because whether it's a ghost or not, the water might take you. You have a very puzzled look on your face.
Man, I don't like. So when I was young and dumb, I'd swim anywhere.
Okay.
As I've gotten older, I don't like swimming where I can't see where I'm putting my feet.
Okay.
And river, those water shoes are the best things. I think it's bad enough when you're in the ocean and I learned a valuable lesson 3 years ago on a cruise. We were in Mexico, and I did not have water shoes, and I stepped on a sea urchin and got
Had
one
to
of
hurt.
those things all up in my foot. But even that isn't going to take me under and keep me. and trade places with me. That's creepy.
That is
Oof. I don't like it. I don't
creepy,
like
and
that
you
one.
can see where those stories would really, really. At the end, I was talking about don't swim alone. Some of those things. Be careful of the water. You can see where a story like this being told to a young child is going to make a lasting impression.
You got all those tonight. We'll come back to that. But here's the thing. Don't swim alone. Be careful where you're at. Those are good water safety tips anyway.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It reminds me of that TV show with Jeremy, I forget his name, but did River Monsters.
Yep.
Where he would go and hunt these fish, and he would pull up these fish that could absolutely do what you're saying.
Fish, eels, octopus, all kinds of things.
Crazy. Crazy.
Hello, I'm Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Tax season is upon us. Did you know that 47% of Americans are planning to use their tax refunds for everyday expenses, home improvements, and vacations? What if you used your tax refund for a new home instead? Again, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Your tax refund can be used towards down payment, closing costs, or paying down existing debt to help get approved. So before you spend that tax refund, let's get together and see how to best utilize those funds to invest in your future and your new home. Call or text me at 502-680-0953. Again, that's 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, Das Acquisitions LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
So, speaking of Ed, I've dealt with Ed four different deals already this year. If you are seriously looking for a great mortgage, a person who's going to walk you through the beginning process all the way to the end to find the package that's right for you, who's going to tell you if he doesn't have the best deal that you can possibly get, Ed Locke's the guy. Wouldn't you agree, Jerry?
I was going to ask if I could add a personal story.
Sure, absolutely.
Personal from the sense I've never dealt with Ed. I've never completed a transaction with him.
Even better, I think.
Highly enough of Ed that when my daughter and her husband, within the last few months, started looking for a home, I recommended that they contact Ed. They did. Ed spent a considerable amount of time with them. And finally, when he was getting the information from them, you need basically everything from someone when you're going to get approved for a mortgage.
Yep.
He had their tax returns and their W-2s and all this, and he was looking at where my son-in-law worked, and which is at CCU, a credit union in the area. And he asked my daughter, why isn't he pursuing the mortgage through them? They have really good rates. And she said, well, we'll look into it. And he went ahead and did everything and spent a lot of time with them. But again, had mentioned to her another time or two, you make sure that your husband looks into CCU. She got back with him and said, Ed, we looked into CCU. They actually beat the rates. Ed's response was, I told you. You want to know why we recommend Ed?
Yeah.
Because that, like you just mentioned a minute ago, even when it's not him, he's looking out for your interests, not his. If you want an honest guy that you can trust, Mr. Ed Locke is the guy that you want to be talking to.
He's smart enough to understand that it's not just about this deal.
Yes.
It's about, can I make this my client long term, even if I don't get this deal?
And that there's no better advertisement than free advertisement, which is what you get when you got me sitting here telling the story of how well he treated my daughter.
Yeah.
And how much he was looking out for their interests.
Absolutely. On that same vein, just to throw it out there, if you're looking for a great realtor and you live in Kentucky, I know a guy. Also, if you are looking for a realtor anywhere in the United States, still call me. I'll do the diligence. I will find you the right realtor in your general area and give them a call, set it up for you, and handle all of the initial stuff that's kind of icky that most people don't like doing. I'll do it for you. Be happy to do it. Don't hesitate to call me, 502-600-0550. You know, we've done this podcast for
3 years.
almost 4, right?
Yeah, close.
We're real close. And I think I've advertised myself 4 times. It's probably a mistake. We should do it a lot more, to be honest. Because seriously, I can help. In Kentucky, I can handle everything for you. That's where my license is. But anywhere else in the United States, I can do all the dirty work for you. All you have to do is meet the person and sign the paperwork at that point.
There you go.
So let me help you with all that. I don't mind to do it. It's what I do for a living. That and this podcast is my life. So let's do it. So, Jerry, now that we're done with all the ads, I every time I read this name, it kind of cracks me up a little bit.
Okay.
The next thing we're going to talk about is the tale of Holy 10.
Holy 10.
Now, I know that I am probably saying that wrong, but it translates in Kentuckian as Holy 10. The old people say that before Hanoi had Hanoi, my gosh, I'm having such trouble talking tonight. The old people say that before Hanoi had streets, before the lake had a name, the land was wild, a tangle of reeds where mist of the world of spirits pressed close against the world of men. On certain nights when the moon hung low and red over the water, villagers whispered that they could hear something breathing beneath the earth. Not an animal, not a human, something much, much older. They called it Holy 10, the fox spirit. For 1,000 years it had lived in the caverns beneath the marsh, shedding its old tails and growing new ones, each one a mark of more power. And by the time people first settled nearby, the creature already had 9 tails, each moving with a mind of its own, glowing faintly like embers in the dark. And with the 9 tails came the final gift, the ability to become human. At first it was subtle, a stranger passing through the village, a beautiful woman seen walking alone at dusk, a handsome man like me, who appeared at the market but never bought anything. People spoke to them, and those people were never seen again. Livestock vanished. Children woke screaming from dreams of golden eyes staring through the window. Travelers swore they saw a woman standing knee-deep in the lake, her reflection showing 9 white tails, even though her body did not. Fear started to settle over the village like a sickness. Finally, word reached Lac Long Quan, a dragon-blooded king, the ancestor of Vietnamese people. He traveled north. He followed the stories until he reached the lake that would one day be called Tay Ho. The moment he stepped on the shore, the water went still. He called out to the spirit, demanding that it show itself. And for a long moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly, the reeds began to part, and a woman stepped forward, impossibly beautiful, dressed in white, her hair drifting like smoke. But behind her, the shadows twisted, and 9 pale tails unfurled like ghostly banners. The Holy 10 smiled, simply said you were brave to come along. And he said, I'm never alone. The ground trembled beneath his feet, and the battle that followed shook the land. The fox spirit split into illusions, 100 different versions of herself, each laughing and whispering lies. She turned to the air into a maze of shifting shapes, trying to confuse him, to lure him close enough to strike. But Lac Long Quan was not fooled. With a single sweep of his blade, he cut through the illusions and struck the real creature. The Holy 10 screamed, her 9 tails thrashing like serpents. She tried to flee into the lake, but he seized her by the tails, and one by one he severed them. And when the 9th tail fell, the spirit collapsed, her power unraveling like smoke in the wind. Where she died, the earth sank, filling with water. That place became West Lake, the Great Lake of Hanoi. And the villagers on that say that on quiet nights, when the moon is low and the water is still, you can see faint ripples moving with no wind. If something stirs deep within the water, something stirs deep within their sleep. Because the spirits that old truly never die. They only wait for their next victim.
Yeah.
What a creepy story. I don't know what that story has to do with cryptids, but that's a creepy story.
I agree. I would wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, it amazes me. I know I'm saying it again. I'm being repetitive, but
Gosh, you're so repetitive.
so many of these stories they go from culture to culture. It'll have a different name, but something very similar can be found in America. Basically, any country you want to look at.
Skinwalker is what it makes me think of in
You got it.
America.
And when you start looking into it, there's similar things found in many countries, if not most countries, which makes you wonder, how does people, I know the first one you did, what was the name? Kating Voar
Yeah.
was only discovered or first found in 1994. Many of these go back long periods of time, hundreds of years in many cases. How can you have so many similar stories that have been told around the world going back hundreds of years, way before communication was to the point that people could have heard it from elsewhere?
Right.
How? Without some kernel of truth originating all of these stories, how? How
Well,
do
this
you...
is why we do what we do.
Absolutely. To me, it just lends so much credibility to these stories. Is there's no way that people from around the world have been telling these same stories for such long periods of time with so many similar details if they just made it all up. I find that very hard to believe.
Even if it, let's not say they made it up. Let's say even if it is something that they absolutely believe they saw.
Right.
I have another story on deck that if we get to it, great. But it involves something that we have direct experience in that on many of the festivals we talk to folks. A lot of them, like Jerry said at the very beginning of the show, they don't want to share their story online. They don't want to be recorded. They just want to talk. And a lot of people at these festivals feel very safe just sharing their story, which is why we go to them. We love it.
Yep.
And we do that at our own expense. It just, that's because we love those stories. We love how it helps our podcast.
And in many cases, helps people.
Yeah.
You've told the story different times about the lady in Ohio.
Yeah.
And she told the story and let out a huge a sigh of relief. You could tell it was the weight off her shoulders she'd been carrying. In that case, it was an elderly lady, and it happened, when she was in her teens? Yeah. She carried it for the majority of her life.
The very first time she ever drove alone.
Right.
Can you imagine?
Right. So, around 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but what I was getting to is we talked to many people from many different states, all having the same or similar triangle-shaped 5 lights underneath, hovering or slowly moving over their house with no sound, no propulsion. And it's just there. It's not threatening them. It's not like, hey, here we are. It's just existing. But for that many people to see the exact same thing in 5 different states and be able to detail it down to the size and the number of lights, it's the same thing you're talking. This is happening all over the world with
totally
creatures, and it's the same thing.
Creatures, boogeyman, ghost, UFOs, all of it.
Yeah.
Very similar stories being told. Absolutely. All right. Next, let's shift from supernatural horror to something a little bit more familiar, still unsettling. Ong Babi.
I got to work
That's
with
my
you
hardest
every
one.
day, so working with you every day is unsettling.
Oh, I thought you was going with it. That's better than what I thought. I thought you were going to say I was the supernatural horror. It's good to know that I'm only little unsettling.
You said that. I did.
Ong Babi is a figure that is used to scare children into behaving. You can think of him as Vietnam's version of the boogeyman. His name roughly translates to the man with three sacks. Now, according to their folklore, he roams around at night. He carries three large bags. If you misbehave, he takes the children, he puts them in bags until he has three children and carries them away. He's often described as being a thin, sometimes hunched over elderly man, very quiet, someone who's always watching, not flashy, not monstrous, not someone you would even look at and think a second thought about, which almost makes it worse, right? It could be anyone, and no one would even know. Unlike the Mada or others, the Ong Babi isn't necessarily believed to be real. He's a tool. He's a way for parents to enforce behavior, right? Many parents use the boogeyman for that. Well, you better not do that, or the boogeyman might get you. He's used to make sure that kids don't wander off, to make sure they don't stay out too late, to make sure that they listen to their elders, if that's possible. But parents will do and say a lot of things trying to get their kids to listen. Basically, it's used as a tool to try to get the kids to do as they're being told. It's fear used as structure. Now, like many child snatcher figures that are told around the world, Ong Babi reflects real fears. There are kids that get kidnapped. There are kids that get lost. There are dangers of wandering off alone. And in many cases, these stories like this are simply used as tools trying to get the kids to not have those bad things happen to them. Now, it turns these abstract dangers into something that's more personal. And every child at some point wonders, what if he's real? Just this once. An example. For my grandson, this was just the other night. If you remember, we had some really strong storms that come through Sunday night, around midnight, I think. My daughter said that it woke Jensen up. He come in the room and he told him someone is knocking on our front door. They told him it's just the thunder. They got him calmed down. He went back to bed. A few minutes later, he comes back a little more scared. And he tells them, I heard it walking down the hall, coming to my room. They explained it was just the heavy rain that's hitting the roof. Same as before, they eventually got him calmed down. He goes back to bed. This time, not 2 minutes later, hail begins to fall. He comes running in the room and he tells them, someone's knocking on my window. Needless to say, at this point, they're up. The whole family's up for a while. Now, Jensen is 5. To him, the boogeyman isn't a story. It's real. Something that could be waiting, watching. And maybe the truth is, the boogeyman never really goes away. Maybe we just get better pretending he's not there.
Facts. Listen, the safest spot I ever considered myself was next to my grandfather. When we lived with him, I would sleep with my grandfather. And he was old school. The house was warm, had 8 blankets on the bed. Back in the day, you know, where the older folks slept in separate beds. My grandma slept in one bed. He slept in another bed. I remember to this day, even in being in the safest spot I could ever possibly be in, I would get close to him and away from the edge of the bed because I was afraid something was going to reach out from underneath the bed again.
There you
go. Crazy how those things think and say and how you imagine that stuff.
Sure. When you're a little kid, there's a lot of scary things in the world. And nighttime, I think nighttime opens up the imagination because now we can't see. We hear a noise. We don't know what it is. In many cases, it's probably just an old house creaking. But little kids don't know that. It's an unknown noise made by an unknown person or thing.
One of the creepiest things you can hear when the lights are out, if you're outside, is to hear something like an opossum walking because it's so
rhythmic almost.
Rhythmic.
Yep.
And it's small. So it happens fast enough that it's like, oh, what is that? How is that? You know what I mean?
Kinda. I never had those fears, and I was in the woods a lot. But I was in the woods enough that when I was in the woods at night, even young, we had guns with us. We always at night, if we're in the woods, we had dogs with us.
Yeah.
So between the guns and the dogs, I just grew up not being scared of the woods or the dark.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Speaking of woods, hopefully soon we have a really cool special alert coming out. Still working on
The video
the
end of it.
video. It is going to be a video release, so that's kind of new for us. We're excited about it. Pretty stoked by that. We're going to leave that at that. But Jerry, Kating Voar, do you think that gets a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I'm going to say there's a little bit of time for me. I think all four need more. They're all thumbs up. They need more news coverage, and here's why. I had not heard of a single one of these until beginning to do the research.
Right.
Whether it's Vietnam or other countries around the world, if we've never heard it mentioned, either one of us, right?
Yeah.
You'd never heard of any of these either.
None of them.
There's something wrong with that.
Right.
Just that, the fact that we've never heard of it, and I think the vast majority of Americans would feel the same way. That alone says it should be talked about at least some more.
Right.
All of them.
I agree. I'm going to say the exact same thing, although I'm going to give more thumbs up to your second story about the water snake thing. That's freaking scary as I've still got goosebumps from that. That freaks me out. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Don't go anywhere. We have a great bonus story coming up right after these short ads. And while you're waiting, swing by Newsworthy with StephenJerry.com for updates, past episodes, and all the weird stuff that Jerry's into.
Before those ads roll, make sure you like, follow, and share the show, especially with your weirdest friend. You know who I'm talking about. And hey, if you're thinking about buying a home, refinancing, or just want straight answers, talk to Ed Locke at USA Mortgage. Local, trusted, and ready to walk you through every step. Call 502-680-0953.
And of course, we recommend Smoking Gun Jerky out of Lincoln, Nebraska. Use code CRYPTID10 for an amazing discount on some of the best jerky you will ever taste.
Long before Vietnam had borders or kings, the sky itself was alive with the presence of the Roang, an ancient dragon whose body shimmered like molten gold and whose breath carried the first rains. When it descended from the clouds, storms followed in its wake. Not storms of destruction, but storms of creation. With a sweep of its tail, mountains rose. With a strike of its claws, rivers found their paths. And from the heart came a child, Lac Long Quang, born of the sky and the sea, destined to walk among humans as both protector and ancestor. In time, he met Au Ko, the mountain fairy, and together they brought forth 100 children, the very first Vietnamese people. But the dragon belonged to the waters, and the fairy to the highlands. So they parted, each taking 50 children, promising their descendants would remain one people, no matter how far they roamed. And though the dragon returned to the sky, the elders say it never truly left, that it lives in the rain that feed the rice fields, and in the mist that clings to the mountains, and in the blood of every child born of this land, a reminder that Vietnam is where sky met earth. Human trafficking happens in every community in the world. If you see something, say something.
Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.
good show.